Welcome back to the SuperCoach Premium Show. My name is Paige, and it's just the old school crew for this episode. Damon and Joyce. Geez, this is going on a couple of years now, us three. So it's nice to have the old triplets, I guess you call us, back, so to speak. Sorry, Mick, we do love you. But moving on from that, we are today taking a look at the forward line. This is going to be the most funnest position to choose from, I reckon, so far during the pre-season, with the addition of some serious, and there's about 5 really good quality players who were once midfielders that now also become forwards. And I mean, to kick things off, there's been one player in particular that that you've been looking at, that you've locked into your side so far, and we will reiterate that these players we are picking in this episode are players that we believe are locks for our side, so this will be beneficial to you, given it's an insight to what we're doing here. So, I mean, kick us off, Damon.
Yes, he's a lock among many because, as you mentioned, Paige, from the top there, that he is now a dual position player, multi-position player. He's a midfielder and forward. Dusty Martin, your man, Joycey, he's priced at $534,900, and last year, breakout season, averaged 99.52, and he hit the ton in 12 of 21 games that he played, including 9 in a row. And there was many people that had him there, and if you didn't have him, you would have got him in at that stage because he was just absolutely on fire. And for me, I think he's a out-and-out premium for me. And if he's not, then I think he's purely on the cusp of being one. But again, being that dual position player, there are many players. There's SWAN that's now a midfielder forward, DELEDIO as well, and Goddard. So it's kind of up to those 3 or 4, including Dusty. But if you include him behind those 3 players, he's a bit of a what would you call him? A bit of
point of difference.
Point of difference is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So,
but his pre-season's been pretty good. You were telling us earlier that it's been
dominating
phenomenal.
Matt's simulation, and really looking to stand out in top 4 Richmond side.
Stop it, you'll make me laugh.
We'll wait and see about that.
But,
make the 8 first.
Look, he will be definitely a point of difference this year, I think, with, as you said, those 3 major guys coming in as forwards. All of a sudden, you know, last year Dusty was a walk-up start in our sides. Is he this year? Well, for some people he will be, for some people he won't. But depends on your structure, and I think everyone's running either a 3 premium or a 4 premium forward line. But I mean, another player as well, Port Adelaide, he went berserk last year as well. He
did, and he was quite a bit of value back a year ago, but now he more than justifies his price, which is Robbie Gray, $596,900, so very, very lofty price.
The most expensive forward.
But he justifies it, as I said. He averaged last season 111, so that is massive, absolutely massive. Didn't have any injuries to speak of. Knock on wood that he doesn't have any more this season. Dual position player, and I mean, you got to look at his last 4 games last year. He just put like a bit of cherry on top, you could say, because his last 4 games he had 126, 148, 171, and 123 leading into the final. So
big numbers.
Not only does he just break the ton, he just eclipses it and always.
So remind me about that final, by the way.
Oh yeah, that final. Yeah, it wasn't much of a final.
Poor Joyce.
Where did you go in the finals?
I don't know. I can't recall.
We were hanging out together somewhere. We'll probably hear at Bar 94 drinking our sorrows away. But look, another player. I mean, harking back to Richmond again. Now you're a bit all over this fella, aren't you?
Well, I mean, how can you not be? He's been a mainstay of lots of SuperCoach sides for years and years and years.
And this is the first time he becomes a forward.
Yes, that's right. Brett DELEDIO. Ever since 2008, he hasn't dropped below 100 in SuperCoach points average for the year. So he's averaged 102.9 last year, and he's only 553,300. So very affordable price. He's really been moved a lot around the park, which shows his versatility. I mean, he started as a forward, even though he was a midfielder in his rookie season, and then he was moved to the midfield, then back to the defenders.
He's our first pick defender once upon a time as well.
Defender, crazy.
Yeah, and then they moved him back forward again. I mean, it was really his Achilles that gave him a less than ideal average for 2014. So with that over with, they're definitely managing him. He's not doing full training, but it's basically being managed. So he's not injured or anything like that. It's just they're watching him just to make sure that he's good for the whole season. And the last 2 months of the season really is where he really shined. From round 15 onwards, he shifted to that mobile half forward role. And he averaged 116.2 in that role, and he was basically kicking 2 goals a game for the entire time.
That's exactly what you want out of the forward premiums.
Exactly. So I would pick him. He was my first forward picked. could say that's a bit of Richmond bias, but I don't think it is because he's just
Richmond
so
bias,
consistent.
yeah.
He's so consistent. Before that Achilles injury, he hadn't missed a game.
No, he is.
very durable.
He's so reliable and very durable, and he's definitely my side, that's for sure. But having a look at another player who's also recently become a new forward player, it is my boy, DANE SWAN. Look at the smile on my face. I just love when I say his name. Look, anyway, as we said, dual position status, and it comes in at a ridiculously cheap $464,000. So, really, considering what Robbie Gray was, how much was he? A touch under 600 grand. You can save yourself 150k and get, DANE SWAN if you like. But look, I mean, having a look at DANE SWAN last year obviously wasn't a great season for him. Very inconsistent. His points fluctuated. His form was horrible. He carried injuries. He had a lack of match fitness. Really was out there because he had credits in the bank. I think he didn't get a game based on form last year. And apart from the Anzac Day clash, I'd say. But apart from that, he played because he had credits in the bank. But this year in particular, he's finally injury-free, he's got no pain, he's feeling fresh, and hopefully that means we see a bit of a return to that 2012-2013 vintage form from SWAN, and with Beams leaving the Pies during the off-season, sadly, obviously you'd expect SWAN to really bounce back and take a bit more of ownership of that midfield after, what he self-proclaimed to be a pretty putrid year. So, I mean, but looking at his stats anyway, he averaged well above the 115 mark in all his seasons gone by, and at one point I think he almost challenged Gaz for the #1 spot at SuperCoach. So,
sure.
You're looking at a guy that can easily punch out, 30 disposals a match and kick a few goals. And if Collingwood are to bring on those younger midfielders this year, then I feel like SWAN will play more as a forward, and we know he can kick goals and take marks, and a bit like Josh P. Kennedy in the sense that, he's reliable as a forward as he is a midfielder. So, really, I think there's a lot to gain out of SWAN, and certainly want to have a look at him in your forward line.
And at that price, I mean, he averaged 86.4 last season.
Yep.
You'd even take an average of 100 from that, honestly.
Oh, of course.
Because, I mean, he's a forward. You couldn't conceive that.
Yeah, well, when you're looking at your top 8 midfielders, you'd want to be having an average of at least 115, 120 to really be in with a chance at the major prize. So that's what you want out of your top 8 midfielders. But he's one. Another one as well. Essendon's Brennan Goddard comes in at 548. He's priced like a premium because he certainly is one. In 2014, he averaged 102 SuperCoach points, and remember when everyone jumped on him mid-year last year, just after the buys, I believe it was, and he was in everyone's side. So if you think about it like that, well, hang on, if I picked him in my top 8 midfielders last year, then he certainly gets a gig as a top 6 forward. So, look, for me anyway, I think he's definitely one I'm really looking at, one that's currently in my side at the moment. He finished in the top 50 in so many certain areas, like your marks, your disposals, clearances, tackles, all that sort of thing. So he basically is a midfielder that's just given a bit more of a free hit as a forward, which is really convenient. But I mean, look, he had 14 scores of 90 plus. So as a forward, let's strictly speak as a forward, you would take that any day of the week.
Definitely.
We're not talking about being a pure midfielder here. Look at him purely as a forward. And that was from, 20 games in 2014, and 12 of those scores last year, you had 100 plus. So again, that ranks him automatically within a top 6 forward. I mean, look at him. Unless you want to look into the current Essendon saga, which we won't delve into, but if you are thinking about it, I guess without mentioning it, it is something to consider.
Definitely. What a bit of a bargain that I'm looking at, actually. Tom Mitchell. He's priced at just over 400k.
Very much so.
He averaged 96.3, so very high for that price.
It really sort of almost baffles me that, he was doing so well on the knee form, just couldn't get a look in that senior side.
That's right, and I think that with Nick Malcheski going to the Gold Coast, I think, if I'm right, this could be the trade, the entry of the season, let's call it. McVeigh can move to the back line to take Malcheski's spot, and then Mitchell slots right in.
Boom.
And that's why I'm really hesitant to start.
That's why you're a SuperCoach.
That's why I'm a SuperCoach. That's why I'm a SuperCoach premium.
Not a cash cow.
People are saying that Isaac Heaney is an automatic start, like a lock. I don't think he is, because Sydney's side is really stacked, and I think they're going to go for the seniority over that. So if Heaney doesn't get in,
I'd suspect that Mitchell would be first in line if you're looking at a play to take it.
Hard yards.
Yeah, he certainly has. And
And even then, Zach Jones is probably next up in front of Heaney. So
could be, but I mean, look, without looking too much at the rookies, I mean, purely if we look at Tom Mitchell, I mean, there's been a lot of talk out of Sydney that his pre-season's been fantastic. The senior players are really backing him to win back a senior spot in the side and become a weekly regular. And I mean, what's he priced at? He's $405,000. So that is so cheap.
Yeah, he got the discount because he only played 6 games, so he got a bit of a price discount.
So for someone that we know that can punch out huge premium numbers, I mean, that's a gift. That is a SuperCoach gift.
All he needs to do is just get his place in the first 22, and you're right.
Even if he averages the same, he's priced at about 78, I believe. So I mean, that's a big increase.
Yeah, so he's going to make you cash anyway.
Yeah, and the thing that I kept harping on last year about with when Josh Kennedy is in the side, his scoring is quite low, or relative to what it is when Kennedy isn't in the side, and that was really highlighted when he played a really great game against Richmond in round 23 when Kennedy wasn't playing. So hopefully, if I'm right, with the McVeigh moving to the back line, there'll be enough room in the midfield for both Kennedy and Mitchell, which would be...
I like it. Yeah. I certainly like it. I think that's... look, Mitchell really should be on everyone's radar at the moment if you can fit him in, but... And there's a couple of other players we've been sort of having a look at, isn't there?
Yeah, just really quickly, when I was doing if you watched the episode about the midfielders, I was looking at Toby Green, and the second half of his season was really good. Another player who had a really good last month of the season was Devon Smith, and he's averaged a 91.19, but he's priced at $490. But in the last month of the season, he had scores of 115, 134, and 137, and that is nothing to sneeze at.
Look, he's certainly and Champion Data rank him as an elite ball winner for a player who identifies as a forward. So there's a lot to like about him. I think whether it's this year or next year, I think he's going to be a must-have at one point. And hopefully for him it's this year. I think he's going to have a bit of a... Remember when Steel Sidebottom broke out in what was it, 2011, 2012 in SuperCoach? I think Devon Smith's going to go down the same path in that sort of respect this year. But another one as well, I mean, going back to Sydney and speaking about Tom Mitchell, I reckon Buddy Franklin's still got a lot of value and gets put behind a lot of guys because of the new guys that have come into the forward position. But he's still one to consider. I like him too. But
averaged 100, and there's no reason why he can't do it again.
No, exactly. He should be more comfortable in that Sydney side this year. But look, to wrap it up there, guys, thank you very much for joining us from the pre-season episode, and we'll be back with the Defenders, I believe, will be the next show we'll be hosting for our pre-season content. Until then, we are the SuperCoach Premiums. We're the guys who are on your side. Welcome back to the SuperCoach Premium Show, and it's the next pre-season episode, and today we're going to be having a look at the forwards who...
I knew it! I knew you were holding that in!